Welkom terug by die Groot Ont Byt. Ek het nou gesê ontbyt, maar as jy besig is met ontbyt, sit dit dalk net so 'n bietjie een kant toe. Jy gaan nou weer jou Weet-Bix eet. Sit hom net daar neer vir nou. Ons gesels met die forensiese patoloog Prof Ryan Blumenthal. Ons gesels oor sy nuwe boek Risking Life for Death. En dit is natuurlik nou 'n boek oor nadoodse ondersoeke wat hy gedoen het op mens. Verstaan jy? So, dis goed dat ek sê, die post-toasties daai kant toe. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, an honor to be here.
It's lovely having you, and such a fascinating book. This is your second book, right?
Yeah.
Risking Life for Death.
My second non-fiction book.
Yes,
I've written 5 fiction books before that,
Yes,
which are in obscurity. They didn't become successful, but these did okay.
The second one. Let's talk about the book. Why this one, and why the title, Risking Life for Death? Usually it should be the other way around, shouldn't it?
Okay, look, my first book, Autopsy, was part memoir, part autobiography, and I wrote it in a very measured way, and I pitched it for everyone, and it was just telling people what it's like to be a forensic pathologist in South Africa, whereas this book is a deep dive. This is case studies, it's hardcore, there's detail, and it's about the reader. So it's like the next step after autopsy.
My goodness.
Why do you think people find it so fascinating to read about autopsies? Your first book sold over 7,000 copies.
Look, I think even in the most primitive tribes, there's a curiosity as to, like, if one of its members dies suddenly and unexpectedly, it's in our DNA to know why we die. So it could signify an enemy from within the tribe or from without the tribe. So it's in our DNA to know why we die. It's in our makeup.
I must admit, you're such a nice guy. I was expecting like a stone cold, emotionless face, yeah. And you're such a nice guy. How do you separate that it's your academic work angle, and how do you cope with everything that you see every day?
Well, I think it's the way I was trained. I must give my university and my professor acknowledgement, the work ethic that has been instilled into me. So, like, you need the right kind of people for this job and the right kind of work ethic, the right kind of professionalism. You've got to keep balanced. So, we're not just thrown into this field. It's done slowly and correctly in the right way.
Training, it's training. Now, your book really delves into the concept of Locard's exchange principle. Must admit, before I read some of your book, I didn't know what it is. Could you briefly explain this principle and its significance in solving crimes?
Right, so everyone's favorite detective uses Locard's exchange principle without mentioning it, whether it's The Mentalist or Magnum P.I. or Jessica Fletcher or Hercule Poirot or Tintin. They're all using Locard's exchange principle without mentioning it. And Locard's exchange principle is the law of interchange. Every contact leaves a trace. So as I sit here now, there's some fibers from this couch that are going to stick to me, and some of my aftershave will stick to the couch. And, if I find fibers on myself or aftershave on the couch, I must explain how this got there. Because every contact leaves a trace. And this is how we catch murderers. Because if you go to a crime scene, you'll leave something there or you'll take something with you. And it's only human failure to identify it and interpret it that can diminish its value.
But that's a principle you can extend to your entire life, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We all have, everyone has an impact on. It's Newton even at the same concept. Everything has an action and a reaction.
Yeah, and we're unaware of the consequences of these actions, and that is what this book is about. It's about the reader, because I argue. So look, there's a lot of case studies in this book. There's a lot of case studies, but I'm building an argument, and by the epilogue, it is concrete. Like, you cannot escape it. It's inescapable. My argument, and I literally come to say that you are the end result of all your contacts in life. Every contact you have had makes you who you are. So as someone is lying on my autopsy table, I can almost say that this person made bad choices in life, because I can see scars, I can see needle puncture marks, and it's like a roadmap. I can see it. And these are the blatant signs. However, there are subtle signs also. So you are the end result of all your contexts in life, and you should be mindful of your present context and your future context going forward. And this can affect your happiness. It can provide you with a better philosophy for growing older, and it can provide me with less work.
That's always great. You mentioned at some stage, you feel like the panel beater.
Yeah.
You feel like you see the crash afterwards, you need to panel beat and figure out how it happened. But there's so many things, like you say now, that principles, basic principles that can be applied to life as to autopsies. And you figured out there are ways, by doing all the autopsies, you figured out the things that people are really struggling with.
Well, yeah, I mean, using your panel beater metaphor, like literally, I work in a mortuary. I don't see humans eye to eye. My days are spent in the cold, hard world of the mortuary.
Sure.
And from my autopsy table, I can tell you so much of what's happening in the world. I can tell you if a new gang has moved into the neighborhood. I can tell you if there's a new or emergent disease. I can tell you the health of the nation, physically and psychologically, just from my autopsy table. You know, it was a forensic pathologist called Simmons who first determined that electric power car windows are deadly, because it was a 26-month-old female that got caught between the electric power car window and the car and asphyxiated. And now all electric power car windows have a cutout mechanism if a body part gets caught between the window and the car. So we play an important public health role as forensic pathologists.
So important. You know, I was also fascinated by the argument that you make that there is value and significance in the absence of evidence. Talk to us about that.
Sometimes what we don't find is more important than what we find. So the absence of evidence can be more important than the presence of evidence. So it's quite hard to explain on air here, but for example, if someone drops dead suddenly and unexpectedly, and I don't find a gunshot wound, and I don't find a stab wound, and I don't find poisoning, then via negativa, through the negative, it's pointing me in another direction. So sometimes what you don't find is more important than what you find.
You referred to Locard's principle. What can we apply in our day-to-day life?
All right, so my epilogue, I talk about suicide notes. So I've performed about 10,000 autopsies myself, so that explains my personality, just for your viewers. But having read hundreds of suicide notes, there seems to be only 3 themes why people kill themselves: work problems, health problems, relationship problems. I call these the 3 battlefronts of life. Almost all human stresses can be squeezed into these 3 battlefronts, from your in-laws to your hay fever. Work, health, relationships. And then in my epilogue, I argue that all 3 battlefronts have Locard's exchange principle in mind: your relationships, your health, and your work, your contacts. And you'll see it's a large argument that I build towards that.
Ryan, let's quickly refer to things like chemic poisoning, the 2-step that everybody refers to. Is it still a thing in South Africa?
South Africa has some pathognomonically ways to die. This means like classically South African. So temic, for
Sorry
example,
for laughing.
is one of those things. I don't think any of my colleagues overseas will be able to diagnose this without a tox lab.
Yeah.
You know, these are the poppy seed-like granules called 2-step, LD carb, haliparimi. There's different kinds of street names, and it's literally it's called 2-step because the first step you take it, the second step you die. It's given to pets, and you know, yeah. At autopsy, we've seen so much of the stuff. Like we can literally diagnose it without a tox lab.
My goodness.
Like literally the smell of it and what it looks like. So this is classically South African.
And we're also huge victims of lightning strikes in South Africa, more than most countries.
Yeah, look, we have our own pathology here in South Africa that we don't really have generally in other places of the world. So we see a lot of lightning here. I did my PhD in lightning, so I've done about 90 autopsies on lightning in my career over 20 years.
Sure.
So yeah, we see a lot of lightning.
How do you keep the humanity? Let's talk about the humanity. As a pathologist, is there a chance of maybe losing it? Do you have to guard against you losing the humanity, your own humanity even? Or is it maybe a question you need to ask the bigger community as a whole?
Well, look, we're still doctors when all is said and done. So we took the Hippocratic Oath or the Geneva Convention Code. So And so when all is said and done, we're doctors. So we're here to serve, to soothe, and to solve. And, we're public health specialists at the end of the day. We're detectives in white coats. We're the final catch net, to keep society civilized. You want to know why your members are dying and what's happening. We can't tell you why, we can tell you how. I can tell you how they died, and it's an important part of our duty.
And it's something that we're losing the humanity aspect, I think, at this stage in our lives. It's all AI, and do you find that as well?
Okay, look, there's ChatGPT now and artificial intelligence, and for example, we've got this Boston Dynamic type dog called Smoof that we put onto death scenes that are hazardous. So if there's chemicals or fires, we can send this mobile, agile, quadruped dog into the death scene. However, there's still stuff that's not on the internet. There's still stuff that has to be taught from master to student. That's word of mouth. So there's still some tricks of the trade that isn't on the internet.
And the internet can only do what we tell it to do at the end of the day. But you know what I find fascinating as well? I never thought about the dangers of being a forensic pathologist, and you speak about that.
Well, that is what this book is about. It's about the risks we face as forensic pathologists. I mean, we're exposed to chemicals, infections, political cases. There's a lot of risk in this field.
And like you refer now to mentorship as well. Is that in South Africa still going? Are we still strong in the mentorship aspect, that there's an experienced person mentoring a new up and coming generation?
We have to have mentors in life, mentors and tormentors. We need to learn at people's feet.
Yeah.
I'm a big exponent of this. There's tricks of the trade that you cannot get from textbooks or from YouTube. You actually have to find a teacher and learn at their feet.
And that's still happening here?
I hope so.
Oh, you hope so. Now I'm worried.
That's scary. Wait, I just want to ask you this. You see how, or not the why, but the how many South Africans die. Do you have any advice for us within a few seconds on how to avoid death as South Africans, unnecessary death?
Yeah, read my books, because every single case is a story to tell, and it's all about avoidable factors. And it would be remiss of me not to mention these things because it's my public health duty. So, wise men learn from other men's mistakes, and we should know what's happening out there and try to be mindful.
Yeah,
we live in a great country, and there's so much hope here. So
Yes.
now that is amazing. Hearing that from a forensic, from a guy like you, a pathologist. I mean, that's spectacular. Thank you very much.
And it's true.
thank you.
Thank you for being here, Dr. Blumenthal, Prof. Blumenthal, and telling us your story and telling us about the book, Risking Life for Death. It's lovely chatting to you today.
An honor to be here. Thank you.
Weet jy nie? Daar sê hy self, en hy werk met die dooie mense heeltyd. Daar's hoop.